What's going on, everybody? I'm your host. My name is KJ, one of the owners of Kicking It, and today I'm here with four amazing people that live in Austin. Not all from Austin, but do live in Austin. And first we have Chaz, my man. Chaz is the founder and CEO of the Austin Justice Coalition. We have KD. KD is a head women's basketball coach at Huston-Tillotson University, Austin's only HBCU. We have Cameron Knox. What's up, Cam? Cam is the community liaison. That's what we got you at. Thurgood legend, East Austin born and raised. And last but not least, we have Willow Houston, and she is Huston-Tillotson University softball player and a Kicking It NIL athlete. Today, in collaboration with Adidas, we wanted to just bring some awareness around Juneteenth, enlighten people and let them know what Juneteenth is and what it is to Texas specifically, and just talk about it, a little bit about it and what it means to y'all. Juneteenth is it's commemorating the emancipation of enslaved African Americans in Texas. It's derived from June and 19th, which is where you get Juneteenth from, which is the anniversary of General Gordon Granger proclaiming freedom for enslaved people in Texas, which came 2.5 years after the rest of the world. It was federally recognized 2021 and became a national holiday. To my people who are native from Texas, being a native Texan, what is your fondest memory you have of Juneteenth?
I ain't from Texas, so I know you ain't talking to me.
Oh yeah, that's right. I think for me, man, like growing up, even before I even fully recognized what Juneteenth and the importance of it was, I just always really appreciated that. A lot of black folks would gather in parks. I was born and raised in Houston, so we'd be at Tom Bass Park, Herman Park. You got all the uncles and aunties out there, kids playing balloons and stuff like that. So really, just seeing black folks have a day to just celebrate and enjoy, right? I think black life in this country is always riddled down with a bunch of micro and macro aggressions. So any opportunity to see black folks, black women, black boys smiling, playing, eating, having a good time is something that always sticks out to me.
So I remember just being here locally growing up, just preparing for the Juneteenth parade pretty much, like the night before, like making sure we got our best outfits on. We know everybody gonna be out there with the best shoes, and we just made sure we was out there on time for all the events. It was stuff going on. We literally walked to the parade from where we lived at. So that was a big thing. Like, we didn't need no ride. We knew we were gonna make it. Like, we knew we were gonna be at that parade, and it was on Rosewood Avenue. And up and down Rosewood, it was just historic. Just from the gymnasium, Doris Miller, to Millennium just being built, connected to the projects where all the black people were. Everybody came out. You couldn't miss that Juneteenth parade. It was something important. You had to be there.
KD, I know you from Chicago. Have you ever heard of Juneteenth, or did y'all celebrate it at all?
So growing up in Chicago, I never heard of it. Then coming here and they start speaking about Juneteenth, and you're like, no, what is that? What's that? No. But the good thing about it is, it's crazy. You say that it came into an actual holiday on 2021, but 2022. Sorry, but look at black people are still out there celebrating way before they even made it a holiday. So that's like the blessing part about it, that we paying homage and giving back to what was created way back, and this to see like how they setting up a day or two before the whole march and everything even start. So I definitely have mad love for Texas, and seeing the things that you guys are doing out here now, that I'm able to be a part of that tradition. That's even more, I love it.
So, Willow, you from Texas too, right?
Mm-hmm. Grew up, I live on the north side, but I grew up on the east side. So, yeah, so whenever Juneteenth, I literally asked my mom yesterday. I said, Mom, have I ever even gone to a Juneteenth parade? She said, yeah, whenever you were younger. But now that I look at it now, I was like, Yeah, like that's one thing I love about Texas, like the so much history that Texas was built upon, and then being able to share that upon people who are not from Texas or who've never heard of Juneteenth, but now since I'm more knowledgeable about Juneteenth and everything like that, just kind of learning about it over the years, because I'm not gonna lie, because the school I went to, we didn't really learn much about Juneteenth, so I have to take it up upon myself to actually learn about it, because before I didn't know it was in Galveston. I didn't know it was in Galveston. And so, but learning that, like, oh my gosh, like Galveston, like I've been there before, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so much history that like, I didn't even know about until I got to my age. But no, that's one thing I always say is, but now that I can remember, and I talked to my grandpa about it, so yeah, I took you to your first Juneteenth parade, you got to see all this. And then one thing is, whenever I actually went to the parade and I saw that all like the businesses and things like that, that's one thing I like is Austin is also very kind of like you can build your own business here in Austin, Texas. And one thing is, even if you go to any type of parade or anything like that, you can get your business out there. It's one thing I like about Austin too and Juneteenth really helped that a lot, is I got to know about a lot more Black-owned businesses at the Juneteenth parade.
So I did not have this question down. It's just I want to know, like, now that it is recognized as a national holiday, how do y'all feel about Juneteenth being a national holiday? Everybody's out work all around the world.
Like for me, and the reason I'm here today is because I think these conversations happening at a place like Kicking It is really important, right? I think a lot of people look at Kicking It as just a shoe store, when really it could be, and it is, in my opinion, another space for our culture, our heritage, people in our community to not only learn about what's going on, but also tap in and be a part of so many much needed solutions. But I think part of it is, while I am grateful that Juneteenth is a holiday, because I think of people like my grandma, I think of people like Ms. Opal Lee, who's the Black lady who has fought literally most of her entire life to make it a holiday. And I gotta respect that, right? But also, I look at the part about Juneteenth that I think a lot of us skim over, right? Like part of Juneteenth is celebrating the emancipation of our enslaved ancestors. Cool, but part of that story that we don't talk about is the 400 or 500 years that Black people were kept out of access to resources that white people, that white slave owners in this country had for that whole time, right? So making it a holiday is great because it's shedding light on some of the dark history of this country. However, like, if we're not talking about redistribution of wealth, if we're not talking about righting some of those wrongs economically, then it's just kind of like, I think it's another ceremonious thing. And I think we have to be careful with that, right? I think we got to get out of this practice of celebrating like these small wins, because I'm thinking about economic opportunities and economic repair in a global context, right? When you think about our Jewish brothers and sisters, right, that went through the Holocaust, they were paid reparations, and like they, as a community, have been able to do quite well ever since that time. When you look at even the Haitians, right, the Haitians were greatly mistreated by the French and the British. They were paid some form of reparations in order to repair their harm. So I think about, and specifically living in Austin, Texas, where the entire East Side, where y'all are from, right? Before y'all was born, it used to be all Black and all brown because the city forced Black people to live there. And because of who we are, we said, cool, we've always been a resilient people. But then as Austin grew and they said, we want this land back, now, Black people are slowly but surely being erased from this booming economy that is Austin. So as great as the parade is, as great as fireworks in Rosewood Park is, it's like, what are we actually doing to make sure we could alleviate and repair the most important part of this conversation to me, which is the fact that for 400 years, Black people were building this economy through slave labor, through the cotton economy. White people ate off that, and then they said, okay, well, no more slavery, now you can go. But it's like you can't really enjoy the fabric of the economy that quite literally your ancestors built and gave their blood and sweats to, because we just never had that conversation, right? So, you know, I'll leave it at that because I don't want to take up too much time.
You already did.
I mean, and for me, like, with it being a national holiday, I mean, like, I feel like we can dig a little deeper because, like, unfortunately, I had to work today being an African-American, right? On our day, right? So, like, I wish that we can just go a little bit stronger, a little bit deeper for everyone to have a day off. Saturday when the parade was going on, like, I had to work also, right? So it's like, I would like for my employer to say, hey, at least give me an option, you know what I mean? Like, don't just make me work.
Right.
But you know what I'm saying? Like you say, like, we're gonna have to work to build this place, right? So I mean, that's just how it's gonna go for I don't know how much longer. But you know, Biden did good in 2021, right? For what he did do. You know what I'm saying?
Small win.
Yeah. So it's it's coming.
Shout out to working at HBCU. I had the day off.
Yes, sir.
In your opinion, how can individuals and communities honor the spirit of Juneteenth besides a parade? I mean, everybody else in Texas, we've been knowing about the parade before we even knew what Juneteenth was. I mean, the parade is here to stay. It's not going anywhere else. But do y'all think it's anything else that the community as a whole, and not just East Austin or the black community, but just the community, period, everybody?
Well, you may call me biased, but I'm gonna talk about the black part of the black community, like Huston-Tillotson. One thing that we have our homecoming. The MLK march starts at UT and it ends over there at HT. If we could find out a way to make that those two pieces bigger and just add on, that educational piece about Juneteenth. We are the first institution to be here in Austin, Texas, period. So I think if we can find a way to just continue to collaborate and just continue to grow Austin, also making Austin a better place to people be open to have conversations like this, I think it'll go a long way with all our people.
I would say personally, since I still am in school, I would just say not only just in our community, just anywhere else who just celebrates it. I feel like educating more about it, because I know some people don't know all about Juneteenth, but I feel like if we can, like he said before, celebrating the small wins, sometimes like we can do more than just a small win by just educating more and more and more about just Black history and just celebrating it just for Juneteenth, just one day, and then in February, just for Black History Month, continue to educate like for however long you can.
I'm trying not to be too pessimistic, but I think part of this is Juneteenth to me is a day that could be used to reflect again on who we are as a country. I think we keep fooling ourselves thinking that we are this great place. I just got back from Paris, man, and like one of my volunteers that used to help me with the organization moved over there a couple years ago, and she told me she had a knee surgery and asked me how much I thought she paid for it. And I was like, maybe like $1,000. She was like, no, a couple hundred. She was like, no, $15. Like when I was eating at some of the best restaurants that I've eaten at in a very long time, I get a bill. There's no tip line because these places have living wage. They have universal health care. And then I get back to this third world country, right, to where women are still paying like an extra 15 or 30 cents on tampons. Like women don't get to control or dictate what they want to do with their bodies. Where we celebrate Juneteenth with parades and stuff, but our legislature is quite literally making it illegal to talk about African American history in the classrooms, right? Like the governor just signed a law that says if you're a public institution such as not HC, but the University of Texas, you can't have DNI, right? You can't have affirmative action, stuff like that. So I think, again, like we as a society, all of us, in American context at least, we have these days, but then like tomorrow on the 20th, we go right back to who we always been, which is a colonial, white supremacist, anti-black, anti-woman, anti-brown, anti-queer community, right? So I think if we don't continue to have these conversations, which is why people don't invite me to stuff all the time, because I gotta talk about it, then we'll just keep doing these things. And I say that jokingly, and I appreciate the laugh because I'm good at what I do, but also Like in Germany, like they have like bronze and golden bricks in the street to remind you every day of the Holocaust, right? But over here in this country, like because of a lot of systems and a lot of institutions in place, like we, even ourselves in our own black community, we don't want to take the time to learn about our own history. Like all we want to do is get the bag. And so when you want to just get the bag and you don't know your history, you don't want to fight to make sure that we can keep talking about this history and keep talking about the things that happen in this country. Like that's actually a win for them. You know what I mean? So I think days like today, we can at least take the moment. And again, huge shout out to Kicking It for doing this because I think we need to continue to remind ourselves about who we've been so we can hopefully get to this place of who we think we are as a society. Americans in America thinks it's the best thing since sliced bread, and it's not. This is a terrible place to live in, particularly if you're a black, especially if you're a black woman, triple down if you're a black queer woman, you know what I mean? But like, again, if we don't have these conversations, we can't grow, you know what I mean? So I think, again, days like today, Black History Month, Women's Month, Pride Month, I think we need to constantly remind ourselves and educate ourselves because we can't rely on the systems and schools to do it, quite literally, like they making it illegal to do so, to make sure that we don't keep making the same mistakes that we're making. So to me, again, Juneteenth, we should be reflecting on, at some point, I'm not even saying all day, but at some point, I think every black person needs to like just really sit and think about 100, 200 years ago that somebody that looked like me was quite literally on a plantation, not able to live their best life. Like it wasn't even an option. You know what I mean? Like I think as the owners and the people that make Kicking It operate, right? The fact that you are able to open a business, the fact that you're able to have a young lady do y'all magnificent social media, like there were people that literally died, right? Like they died and they endured all of that terrible stuff that was happening to make sure that we could get to where we get to someday. You know what I mean? And I know that's kind of heavy, but like when you just sit with that, man, like it's actually really crazy.
Right.
And I just like I don't know, whatever.
My next question was, how can Juneteenth be a catalyst for discussions and actions around racial equality and social justice? But is that even possible? Do you think that Juneteenth is the start of that, or can it be a part of that? A part of what starts that by it being a national holiday today?
I mean, one day is not enough just to, represent for who we are. I mean, we already have Black History Month, and that's still not enough. I mean, we got to be taught and give the lesson to all races throughout the year.
Right.
Like, it's just not enough lesson learned, especially when, like, you got the historic Rosewood Avenue and all the black people are being washed out from it. Like, there's no more, there's no more significance. Like, I saw, like, videos of the parade, and it was so empty because the project just got knocked down 3 months ago. Like, so, like, these people who will essentially be going to the parade are no longer going to the parade. They don't even have a place to go anymore, period. I don't know where they went. So, like, it's just so different. I mean, it's just, like, not enough taught. Like, I reiterate the importance of being African American to my son all the time. He's biracial. And, like, I didn't, like, push it on him, but, like, he feel like he's a strong black man more than anything. So, like, being from here and just being raised into an old home by my grandmother and being 93 today and listening to her old stories, I definitely know the significance of where we come from and how we were freed and how the importance of who we are today.
Go ahead, Chaz, let it out. Go ahead and spin that mic, Chaz.
Before Chaz, that is kind of crazy that you celebrating a holiday for black people in a neighborhood that's no longer your neighborhood.
Exactly.
No, that's kind of crazy, and it's just like the people it's people looking out their windows. That's not us, and we'll celebrate something that used to be ours that's no longer ours. So that's kind of crazy that we say our ancestors, they bent over backwards, they died, building this area, and it's no longer our area. It was taken away from us. So that's kind of crazy when you sit there and you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, it was very interesting to be in a parade this year and pass by the Rosewood Courts and it's not even there. I think if we're not careful, Juneteenth can become like Valentine's Day. Like half of y'all people in this room right now are in a relationship with somebody that's the only time they love you. The only time they get you gifts, the only time they take you to a nice dinner is on Valentine's Day. And I think if we're not careful and really sit with the importance of why Juneteenth even exists, it can become just that, right? It's just one day where companies, I would love to see the follow up with Adidas after this, right? Like, are they gonna hit you up like next month when it ain't Black Month, right? Because like again, like February and Juneteenth, sometimes Kwanzaa is when these companies reach out, right? But it's like again, if we're talking about racial equality, if we're talking about actually leveling the playing field, that takes hard work. You know what I mean? Like Kicking It didn't pop up in a day. Like it took y'all, like you had to put a business plan, you had to talk to people, you got to get the money. So like I think if we're talking about a place the reason I fight for Black people in the city so hard because I actually am crazy enough to envision a society to where Black people can just like exist and be. You know what I mean? Like where you, Black man, Black woman, Black person can just be and do whatever you want to do. And I understand in order for us to build that society, it's going to take, not everybody, right? I'm not asking everybody to do the type of work I do every day, but it takes some of that, right? Like it takes some like 24/7 dedication to make sure we could understand where we are and where we need to go. So, I mean, again, I think Juneteenth can be important, but it's up to us and how we control that narrative. I will say this, I think if we let these companies come in and dictate the narrative, like we'll lose it. You know what I mean? Next thing you know, it'll be a white woman on some Juneteenth commercial talking about it's Freedom Day. You know what I mean?
Flavor,
yeah, you know what I mean? So again, I think, and I think that's something we don't really appreciate from our elders and from our ancestors is that you got to control the narrative. You know what I mean? Like even again, I'm using Kicking It because I'm here so much, but I hope somebody within the Kicking It ecosystem is documenting y'all's story, right? Because if you let them tell it, Kicking It is just a shoe store. Right. They don't know all of everything it took and the importance of the shoe store in our community in Austin, Texas, in the domain, you know what I mean? So again, it's really up to us, you know, it's up to us to see how we want to use the power of our own voice, of our own narrative, to not only tell the story of Juneteenth, but how we use Juneteenth to again build the foundation and futures that we want. Because again, like I don't want to say I love shaming white people, but imagine like a white person telling you Happy Juneteenth, right? Cool. But like take that white person and like sit them down for like 2 minutes, be like, tell me about this holiday, tell me what you know about it. And like they'll tell you the story, blah, blah, blah. And then like ask them to like just close their eyes and imagine your ancestor being on the plantation 100 years ago, 200 years ago, right? But again, like we don't really take that time to do that slow work needed to get to where we get to. You know, we all just want to TikTok
my uncle was telling me a story the other day, like right next to his girl, whatever you want to call her, like, and she's Mexican and she's half white, and
don't put your uncle business out there like that.
he locked in with us, so yeah. But yeah, so like he's telling me and my son the story, and this is on Thurgood, and he's telling us the story about how for the summer he used to get dropped off in Dale, Texas, to go pull corn off of the stalk and pick up the seeds for feed, take the straw and tear it, take it back to the women so they can tie it to make a broom. And then the feed would be for the hogs and for the chickens and whatever to eat. And then I looked up and this lady's crying. And she's like, I'm sorry, like you ever had to do something like that. So maybe she felt something. You feel me? Like, so that was that 2 minutes you were just talking about. You feel me? So like some of them you can reach, you might can get through to some of them. That's why those are the ones that are probably at the parade. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So like, I don't just what you saying like that. But I agree totally. I totally agree with you. But like yesterday, it literally just happened yesterday. So like I was like, man, that 2 minutes just happened yesterday. Yeah.
So just to piggyback off what we just talked about, how can businesses and organizations actively support and commemorate Juneteenth?
I'm gonna speak on the new generation. So when it comes to the new generation, because I would say one thing about like new generation, it's kind of like, yeah, TikTok is gonna be one big thing when it comes to social media. Clothes and shoes is gonna be one thing about kind of like advertising, a lot of things. So I would just say kind of to reach the generation now is to be as out and loud, as obnoxious as you can be, because with our generation, like nowadays, it's like it takes a lot to kind of get through some people's minds, but it doesn't take too much. But one thing I will say, one thing that stuck out to me about businesses that I saw on Saturday was people just had business cards and they were just going out handing them to everybody, anything. And so one thing is being out there as much as you can.
So beyond business cards, what does that look like to you? What does the support look like in your opinion?
What do you mean support? What do you mean?
How can businesses and organizations support Juneteenth? Like, what does it look like to you? Is business cards and them passing out business cards?
I don't think business cards like is enough. But like I said, kind of so like how Kicking It has like with social media, how they're all over social media.
Right.
I would say kind of like letting Juneteenth be known is just like social media, like spread it out, like spread the word out about Juneteenth on social media, because I feel like that's one thing this whole world is about is social media. So I feel like social media is going to be like your top tier of getting any word out, regardless if it's a holiday, brand, or anything.
Yeah, but another thing is you got to be willing to educate yourself on it. So if you're not going to educate yourself on it, then it's just pointless. You have to want to learn about that background. You have to want to be involved with it. You have to want to share it. So until people are willing to educate themselves more about it, there is like no way that they can support. I don't want you to come and say, "Oh, hey, I support you on Juneteenth," and you don't know nothing about it. No, that's just like, with me and my everyday work with recruiting with basketball. No, yeah, I'm recruiting you as a basketball player, but I want to learn more about you. I want to build that relationship with you, so that way I know the ins and outs of everything. I know what to touch. I know what not to touch. But a lot of people not willing to educate themselves on what's going on around their own area. So it's hard to show that support when you're not educated on it.
I agree with you mostly.
So
I don't know if I particularly care that white folks fully understand the importance of Juneteenth. We don't want to punish the white people today for what their ancestors did, but also they benefited from what their ancestors did, right?
I agree with that.
So like they should also have to pay for what their ancestors did. So for me, I think Juneteenth again, like this is why we just started our economic justice campaign, because I finally to this day like understand why MLK and a lot of our leaders during the 60s start talking about money, because it don't cost nothing. It don't cost nothing to pass some legislation, right? Like we just passed the Crown Act that says, you can't discriminate against people for their hair. Great. That don't cost nothing though. That's free. But again, when we talking about how the East Side used to be about 40 to 50% black, and now all of Austin is about 7%. And it's a study called the Race to 2053 that says if this country doesn't start doing something like drastic in the next 5 to 10 years, black people will have zero net worth in 2053. That's literally like 30 years from now. You know what I mean? Now you got to juxtapose that with the fact that in 2016, Austin was ranked number 1 as the most economically segregated city in the country, right? So we're talking about money. We're talking about Austin is the number 1 city, fastest growing city when it comes to money, but it's also the most economically segregated city when you talk about black and white people, right? And then you got to, again, keep in the back of your mind a study that says in 2053, if we don't start doing some drastic things to redistribute wealth, black people won't have no money. The University of Texas right now, they had some Juneteenth stuff. Okay, cool. University of Texas is also responsible for 2 things in particular. They are the baseball stadium that y'all go to and support the Longhorns, that quite literally sits on top of a black and brown neighborhood. That's why you'll never see me at a baseball game at UT. On top of that, too, the University of Texas for about 40 years kept black and brown people out of higher education. Now, why is that important, Chaz? Because we know that people with higher degrees have higher potential earning income, right? So you're talking about 40 years, you close the doors to black and brown people while y'all keep churning, right? So again, like we keep talking about the lack of access to the full potential of American society that black and brown people have not been owed. It's like, for me, Juneteenth should be, man, we got to start talking about money. Like, don't come talk to me, don't ask me. Starbucks wanted to do something with us for Juneteenth. It's like, yeah, we got a bunch of free coffee to give out. This is $1 billion corporation.
You'll give out coffee.
You know what I mean? So it's just like what are we actually doing? And again, like, restitution can't be done because it's happening around the country. It's happening around the world. So again, if we're not actually understanding the importance of Juneteenth and the fact that our ancestors, again, like, were on plantations working to make sure Susan and Tom and them could have money coming in, right? And then when the Emancipation Proclamation said no more slavery, and that was it. They promised us 40 acres and a mule, which would have been a lot. Like, because like, even if you give us the 40 acres and a mule, right? Because we don't even talk about the importance of owning land, right? Which is something important. Just for an example, I'm not saying I'm not in Kicking His business, but like, Kicking It would be more powerful if we own the land that it sits on. True. Right? Because the land is where, but I mean, it's just, white people get by because we let them get by, because like, we take the small wins, and I'm not saying we don't celebrate those, and I'll wrap it up with this, Keenan, because I'm getting a little passionate now, but like, this whole country is like the game of Monopoly, bro. It's Monopoly. And like, what happened is they quite literally made black and brown people build the board, build all the pieces to the Monopoly game. Like, we painted that all that. And then after we built it, they said, okay, we finna play it. And white people have been playing a game of Monopoly for 400 years. Now imagine you playing a game of Monopoly for 400 years, right? And they let you in at year 401. Ain't no property left. Everywhere you land, you gotta pay taxes. You can't even really get in the game. You know what I mean? So like, we gotta start talking about, we gotta reset the board, bro. All right.
What does that look like? How does that happen?
Like to me, that looks like a couple things, right? Like, on the city front, like, I think the city could be a leader in this by doing a couple things. I think the city, which is one of the highest employers of black people in Austin, could increase minimum wage to living wage. I think they could also do things like 4-day work weeks. Like, at my organization, we got 4-day work weeks. Because I don't think black people, I honestly don't think black people in America should have to work at all. I think we should just get paid to exist because we already did all the work. I think companies, I'll give you another example, Oracle, which why you'll never see me go to Oracle. Oracle quite literally sits on top of black and brown neighborhoods. You can Google this. It's brown and black people with signs on Google saying, don't kick us off our land. Don't kick me in my house. Now, if Oracle hit me up on Juneteenth talking about what y'all want to do, well, let's talk about some of the money you owe. I think for me, like, I'll just use Oracle since I'm picking on them right now. I think Oracle could do something that we know a lot of these companies do. They could just hire black folks in the hood. You know why? Because they hired Tom's little incompetent son just because they know him. Tom's son, no, I'm being serious. Tom's son don't have no degree. He ain't got no degrees either. He ain't got no certification either. He just know his dad just know the boss. And then they pay Tom to learn the job on the job. But then you tell me, like, little Nook from the hood who got some hood like genius, because we already know black people we're just genius, bro. One of my favorite lines from Harlem Godfather is like, when you look at a black person, you looking at God. And I believe that in my core. I don't know no black people. If you give us an opportunity, we will quite literally, we build pyramids, bro. You know what I mean? Like the things we have done, like, not my opinion, by facts, are phenomenal. And you telling me you don't think I can run your dumb company? Come on, bro. Like, so these companies can give black people, like, just literal access to wealth by giving us jobs. They can do something like they done in other countries, make your boards 50 to 51% black and brown, because we know, and I would say black women, because we know when you have black women in charge, the whole culture changes of anything. You know what I mean? Like also these companies, you know what a company can do? They can adopt black and brown nonprofits and give them some money. Yes, that's important, but also give us the tools needed so we can build our own sustainable resources, right? Like let's say, again, Oracle adopts us. They give us $100,000, cool. But like also help us develop models to where we sustain ourselves. Give us like some money-making revenue so we don't have to keep asking for charity. It's so many things companies can do. We just don't think outside the box. You know what I mean? And again, like nepotism is not a bad thing. It's only a bad thing because we don't have the power to use it.
Right.
Quite literally, man, like y'all know what I'm saying is true. This whole block right here, this whole domain is full of people that are incompetent. Their parents just had access to resources, then they passed it on to them.
Yeah.
Give us the same opportunity and watch how we make that shit go tenfold, bro. And that's just a small example of what we can do.
All right, y'all, we're going to get ready to wrap it up. I got one more question before
I'm not answering this last question.
Nah,
Hey, boy.
I got one more question. Our last question is, how can we continue to raise awareness and educate others about Juneteenth and its significance?
By bringing Chaz on the panel so he can talk.
As a national Juneteenth spokesman.
Chaz at every event out there so he can talk. He gonna make sure everybody know their knowledge.
I mean, who are we trying to educate? Are we trying to educate everyone? Are we trying to educate?
World, it's a national holiday.
I mean, well, we kind of cut short with Juneteenth because Juneteenth not even in school. Like for my son to learn about Juneteenth, it's gonna be cut short during Black History Month. You got Black History Month for the shortest month. We already got shorted. Then it's cut off in a half in the middle with Valentine's Day. People blocked off of Valentine's Day for 2 or 3 days of that. You know what I'm saying? So like, I mean, we just keep getting shorted. So, and then like, it don't seem fair at all. Like for my kids to learn about Black History Month, like I can only teach them so much, and it's probably more that of my own experiences type. You know what I'm saying? Like or the little that I did learn in school, but like for it to be being cut out of class, it's like it's not fair to my children because then like they only gonna know so much. They only gonna know so much. It's only gonna get them so far, and then and then the advertisement, it's only on Black social media. Chick-fil-A's not broadcasting that. They not giving us no French fries holder with it being black, red, and green. You know what I'm saying? So like it's just like we just keep getting undercutted, cut short, and it's just like it's just gonna keep going on, but we don't know for how long. But we just keep trying to do stuff like this. Will make a change and make a difference, but when? You know what I'm saying? Like, cause we've been due.
But no, I definitely agree with him. Like we only. Most of the time we go to, even when I was in high school, Black History Month, we learned a lot of different stuff about Black history and just cut off during that month. And I think that we need to normalize having these kind of conversations. It's just a conversation. It's just like you're in a relationship, you're getting to know your significant other. You're not gonna get to know us without having that conversation, learning from our backgrounds. But I don't think like some people are uncomfortable with talking about it. And this one thing that we just have to just normalize. You shouldn't have to go to an HBCU to learn the Black culture. You shouldn't have to wait till February just to learn something about Black history. We talking about Martin Luther King. It's crazy because when I got here from Chicago, I thought it was crazy that the Martin Luther King statue is at the University of Texas. And then you had not only the first institution of higher learning in Austin, but the only HBCU in Austin, and the Martin Luther King statue is not over there. I know it's a bunch of stuff, politics, whatever it is behind it to make that happen. But I thought that was crazy. My first MLK march, I said, okay, we're marching from UT over. I was like, damn, the statue is over here, and then we got a whole HBCU where the march ends at, and there's nothing over there.
Yeah.
So that kind of like blew me a little bit. So, but I think if we normalize, I think it'll be a better outcome.
I would just say having to normalize going out of our way to learn something we don't get to learn about in school. Because even though like I'm in school right now, again, like my first MLK March was last year. Again, how Katie said, I didn't know MLK was at the University of Texas. I was like, but I go to HBCU. Our walk ends at our HBCU. And so it's like I had to go out my way to understand why it was built at UT and not HT when HT was there first. And so it's like we really have to normalize learning something ourselves over trusting somebody else to teach it to us who isn't going to, for one, teach us the right way, two, kind of short us because we don't learn enough about where we come from, about who we are. And so it's just, I would say in all this and all together, it's just we have to normalize educating ourselves first, and especially because again, if no one else is going to do it, who else is going to do it? So you might as well just go out your own way and do it yourself.
I think doing things like this is important, right? Because like kicking it, everybody has different access and different webs and connections to different people. And you know, like for the people that know me, y'all know what I do, y'all know who I am, but I also don't have access to everybody that come through this door. So when y'all set a platform and a stage like this, that's allowing the person that just thought they was coming to get some fucking Air Max today, they was like, oh, I actually learned some shit. So like now they got a little extra nugget in their bag, you know what I mean? I also think we need to, all of us, everybody, we need to learn how to accept and be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because that's what growth happens, right? For people that work out, for people that, you know, if you play sports, you know, like you're getting better as you're doing the hard part, you know what I mean? Like the practice and, you know, like, you know, anything you do, social media, right? I'm sure you take a lot of chances and risks doing different things to make sure you can get the content out and make sure like you get the response you want. Every day in Germany, in public school at least, they talk about the Holocaust today. And that's important because they don't want to repeat the same mistakes that they made. So every day in Germany, they have an hour where they talk about the Holocaust. They list names, they talk about names of people that were affected. Like I told you, they got bricks around different parts in Germany to where you know who was here, who was killed. The Anne Frank Museum was in Amsterdam that I got a chance to visit. And it was a line wrapped around the corner, like all day, because people are fascinated with not only who we once were, but where we managed to get to. And I think, again, as a society, we have to be willing to do that work. And I know that's hard because Tumblr did a study in 2016 that showed that we, in this social media world that you talked about earlier, the average adult has an attention span of about 8 seconds. So I really need to learn how to like condense the shit I'm saying. But so like I just really think we need to accept who we are. Like I don't think we have fully done it. Even as a man, somebody posted on social media a couple years ago, like they asked women, what would you do if men didn't exist? And women was like, I would just go for a walk, right? Like I would just walk outside. I would go, I would feel comfortable pumping my gas. And, you know, so I would talk to my lady friends about like, you know, what do you think about this? And then the more you talk to ladies and women, you understand that that their very existence in this very patriarchal society is it's a lot. Then, you know, once you start talking to women more, you learn that the stats that show that 1 in 4 women are raped. Like 1 in 4 women that you know have been sexually assaulted. But we don't notice, like you only notice once you start building connections and relationship with people, right? And having those very difficult conversations and having those really like slow moments where you get to lean in, like you said earlier, like when you want people to come play basketball, it's like, you're more than basketball player. Tell me about who you are, right? And I think as a society, even though I fuck with white people all the time, and I think I got to, because like if we don't kind of remind them of how they got this wealth, how you got that Tesla, and why my neighborhood looks completely different than yours, in most parts of any town USA, then we're doing ourselves a complete disservice. And as much as folks say like, oh, we need to stop complaining about it. It's not complaining. It's just about knowing and acknowledging who we are. And again, until we acknowledge that we are on stolen land and that black and brown people built this country, and that quite literally black and brown people, blood, sweat, and tears, and indigenous folks, blood, sweat, and tears, and quite literally black women have built this country, and we have yet to reap the benefits of that labor, then like we'll keep seeing the same things, right? Like in 2020, George Floyd at HT, right? We did that at HT for a very significant and specific reason. We had 35,000 people at HT.
The largest peaceful protest in Texas.
Yeah, ever, right? At HT. And I knew in that moment that if we wasn't careful, we was gonna go back to where we were, and here we are. And again, I think we just gotta keep doing it. And I know people hate when I walk in places sometimes because I always think I'm bringing heavy and it's in my pocket. I don't pull it out all the time, but it's definitely in my pocket. But it's just like, yeah, as much as you talk about Ghost Lounge on Fridays and, hookahs and all this and that, cool. Like, take 5 minutes out your day to actually talk about something that's actually important. Something that can build a better tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, y'all know me. If you know me, even though I don't drink no more, I can turn up real quick. But at the same time, I think about the future KDs and the future Keenans and the future Willows to make sure that they don't have to keep doing the same shit that we doing. How can I prevent George Floyd from happening? How can I prevent Breonna Taylor from happening? How can I make more Kicking It millionaires? How can we get what's due to us as black people? And the only way we can do that is by having boring, deep, heavy conversations about where we are. And then once we do that, once we have the boring, deep, here Chaz go again, conversations about who we are, that's when we get to tap into our imagination and really think and paint and build and mural a place in society where black people can actually be free. Because I'll say this, I'll end on this note. As much as we talk about what we against, we gotta start talking about what we for, right? Like, I'm against a bunch of you know what I'm for? I'm for black women to be able to get paid equally for doing the same job better most of the times than they do for men. I'm for men, black men specifically, being able to tap into their full range of emotions, not just anger and rage, right? I'm for black men going to therapy. I'm for black people being able to really disrupt and change what professionalism is, because it's not just suit and ties. You know what I mean? I'm for black people having their names be whatever the to be and not be judged when they apply for job applications. I'm for black people's culture and heritage and genius to be fully appreciated and compensated, because quite literally, we are the originators of everything you can touch and feel. But again, we can't get there unless we have these conversations that we often don't want to have, right? So come to Kicking It, get your dope shoes, get your nice t-shirt, and let's take a moment, maybe once a month, to talk about some real shit. And if everybody did that, whether you work at KUT, whether you work at whether you work HT, if everybody did that, that's how we build a compassionate, comprehensive society to where we all get on the same page. But one thing we can't do is we can't just rely on sending our kids to school, right? Because they making it illegal to talk about it anyway. So we got to start taking a moment of our platforms and times to have conversations like this. And once we do that, we can get to a better tomorrow, to where we can actually celebrate Juneteenth without it being all this, other. All right, I'm done.
Round of applause, everybody. Hey.
Okay, we done.
Hey man, thank y'all for coming. Shout out to y'all on the panel. Shout out to Adidas. And hopefully somebody learned something about Juneteenth. Hopefully you'll spread the word, have some deep, heavy, real conversations, and then go buy some shoes from Kicking It. Thank y'all.
All right, shout out Kicking It.